Welcome. You're listening to the Good Girls Don't podcast with Ashley Ray
and Verity Mansfield.
This is the podcast where we smash those rules that we've been taught to follow both as men and women and burn the damn rule book. We're tackling the big issues and the issues nobody wants to talk about, and we'll be fiercely feminist about it.
This podcast is about inspiration, education, compassion, and being the change that you need to see in this world. This podcast is for the trailblazers, the freedom fighters, and the soul igniters, and all the women just like you who are ready to break the good girl rules and be heard.
We acknowledge the traditional custodians of Australia and its First Nations people on which this podcast is produced and consumed. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging.
Get ready for the revolution. It's coming to you now. It's coming to you now. You're witnessing an evolution. And they'll never bring us down. No, they'll never bring us down.
Hi, Verity.
Hey, Ashley.
How you going?
Good. We're pretty excited about this episode.
We're pretty excited about all the episodes.
We are. We love them all.
Exactly. Verity, tell me, who have we got today?
Today, we have the absolute most delicious human being, Amy
I think delicious
Towle.
is a really good way to describe her.
It is delicious. I keep using it. Delicious. She's so delicious. So Amy Towle is fierce, and I've had the honor of meeting and working with Amy in a slightly different area. And she's mentored me in some different things as well, like around intuition, and of course that, I did about a year ago. And, she truly is the embodiment of Mother Earth and more. I mean, if Mother Earth was to meet the goddess Venus, I think we'd be getting pretty damn close.
That's a big claim. That's a big claim.
This woman, if you've ever been in her presence, like, she is just like a walking goddess. She is just magnificent.
Do you know what? I can actually back up that claim. I have met her in person, and she is delicious. Is one word to describe it. She just oozes sensuality, and she just makes you feel like you are the most beautiful, sensual being in her presence. Like, she's just got that ability. She's fucking phenomenal.
She really is, and she's just so warm and genuine. It's no surprise that she started off as a midwife, because she really has a beautiful, nurturing, Mother Earth quality about her.
Absolutely. And did you know Amy Towle is dedicated to working with willing women who want to open Pandora's box and delve into exploring all of who they are and clearing out all the shit so they can embrace their sexuality, sensuality, and live their most vulnerable self. She's an intuitive goddess, Yoni Massage, mentor, and midwife. And Verity, what the fudge did we talk to her about?
Well, we started wanting to talk to Amy because of the whole Yoni Massage, and I guess the controversy and the taboo of, paying another female to play with your vagina. And it sounded like a really sort of like, why would we do that? What the hell, is this about?
Especially after our chat with Catherine.
Yeah, and so we put it out there on Facebook, and so many people didn't really understand what a yoni massage was, and a lot of people were like, oh, it's a vagina massage. And so we had to get Amy on and talk about it. And I know Ashley and I, in the circles that we participate in, we both know of women, numerous women that have experienced yoni massage and have had amazing life-changing experiences because of it. And it was really fantastic to hear Amy talk about yoni massage and how it's got so much more to do with the vagina. It's got to do with our entire womb space, our entire reproductive, organs, our sacral chakras, our base chakras. It's just an amazing conversation.
Oh my goodness. Yes, it is. All of that and more is coming up on the Good Girls Don't podcast. See you in a minute.
And we are so excited today to have the fabulous Amy Towle with us. I had the absolute pleasure of actually having Amy as a mentor in a program about a year ago. And she really does exuberate this beautiful, Mother Earth feeling. Like, you always feel so safe with her. She's beautiful, she's bubbly, she's warm. Like, whenever you see her, you just want to be hugged by her. She's just got the most amazing, beautiful, warm energy. She's just the embodiment of the goddess as far as, so many of us are concerned. And so we couldn't wait to get a hold of Amy. I think Ashley and I have been jumping up and down with excitement for the last 2 weeks to have this conversation with Amy and to talk about everything that Amy does. She has been a midwife. She's also deals with Yoni Massage, which, is quite an interesting topic. And, there's a lot of people who aren't quite sure what that is and, what it entails.
Bit of a taboo.
Yeah, it is a taboo, and we don't want it to be a taboo, which is why we thought it was perfect for the Good Girls Don't podcast. So thank you so much, Amy, for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you, gorgeous women, for having me. And I love listening to people introduce me. It's always like, oh, that's me they're talking about.
Feel that ego.
Totally. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Amy, can you just give us a bit more background on yourself? So you started off as a midwife, and then how did that journey take you into, I guess, breaking the Good Girl rules and going into Yoni Massage?
Yeah. Well, that's a whole day story in itself. So I've been a midwife and still am a practicing midwife for just over a decade now. And I practice midwifery across all facets of midwifery, and I was in a publicly funded home birth program, and I had an experience that resulted in a bad outcome, and as a result I experienced a 21st century witch hunt where the hospital decided to persecute me, and that was about a 12-month process that I had to endure. And it was kind of my dark night of the soul, really. I had to turn within because a lot of external supports and people that I thought would be there weren't. And I was very much thrown out on my own. And I thought, okay, how am I going to survive this? Because there were days where I thought, I'm not going to survive this.
Wow.
And I had to kind of find something to get me through it. And what I found was this strength that was within me. And going through that enabled me to really build on that strength and learn how to tap into it. And then, so that kind of ended my midwifery career as I knew it. It ended my passion, and so I was seeking then something else because I knew the power of women. I saw it every single day in the birth suite, and I knew we had this power. And also in all that time as a midwife, I saw lots of things where women were disconnected from their bodies, how they were ashamed of their bodies, how they were experiencing the most powerful transformational moment of their life, yet they were terrified. And they were abused and came out traumatized, and it just doesn't add up.
Yeah.
So I had a beautiful friend visiting me, and we went out one night to this weird tantra evening. We thought, let's do something different, go to this weird thing. And we went
That's how it all starts, isn't it? Let's go do this weird thing.
It's a slippery slope.
Oh, isn't it just? And she was sort of there to give me a bit of love while she was in town while I was going through all this shit. And we went to this night, and it just blew my mind. It was a Yoni puja, and puja means like blessing or honoring, and Yoni means for sacred cave or vagina, womb space. And so it was a womb space blessing. And I went to this ceremony and sat in this process and just went, oh my God, there is so much reverence that we are not giving to this part of our body. And I just thought, I need to explore this more. This feels like a key to all this other stuff I've realized and witnessed as a midwife. And then the woman who ran it was saying, I'm doing a Yoni massage practitioner training. It's starting next month. I went, I don't know what that is, but I have to do it. So I signed up, I did the training, and I started doing Yoni massage, and it's just kind of escalated from there. The more I got into that, the more I was able to let midwifery go from a financial aspect and develop Temple of She, which is my business, and just create services. And I'd do something and women would go, oh my God, that's amazing, we want more. And I'd go, oh God, okay, create something else. And then I'd create something else. And it just kind of expanded into this incredible space for women to do the most powerful self-sexual exploration. So it's kind of, I'm incredibly grateful for what I've experienced because it led me to where I am now.
Yeah, and that's a really beautiful story. And it's kind of like I have very limited knowledge around this area. But, there's that really beautiful link with the sacral chakra. Like that's where we hold, a lot of our sexuality, but that's also where creativity is birthed.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful, even on your own journey, to hear as you're, exploring, I guess this, sexual healing practice, that your creativity was just expanding. I think this is something that so many people, like this is a point I think where people don't get it, where when you do talk about Yoni massage, they see it as something that's just purely sexual, and I think sexual in a bit of a clinical way.
Yeah.
And not as an energetic healing. So can you give us a bit of background as well about what actually is a Yoni massage? Like if someone was going to come and have a Yoni massage, what would they be not expecting, but how would that unfold for them?
Yeah.
I've totally got to say as well, like the whole, sorry to jump in there, Amy, I think there's a really big perception out there about that what Yoni massage is kind of like a pelvic exam.
Yep.
Really clinical as well. So if we can sort of debunk that, that would be awesome.
Yeah, amazing. And because I think that is the more socially acceptable version. Yeah, the clinical approach. You can go to a physio and have a pelvic lesson, if you like, and that that's more socially acceptable. So it's an easier thing to swallow for people. Whereas, sexuality, oh my God.
Well, the good girl can't be sexual unless it's on a man's terms.
Exactly. Exactly. So Yoni massage, it's hard to put in a box because it's different for every woman, and every woman comes to experience it for different reasons, and that of course dictates her experience. So it's so as I said before, Yoni is, there's no word in the English language for Yoni. Yoni is the whole area. It's like the whole of the sacral chakra and the base combined, really, if you like. It's the labia, it's the vulva, it's the vagina, it's the uterus, it's the cervix, it's the whole space. And so Yoni massage is a massage of that space. And a woman comes in and we spend the first while talking. Why are you here? What's your intention for this process? What has brought you into this space? What are you wanting to get out of this experience? What's your history that has led you to either disconnect or connect with this space? And at that point, women, like I have women who come because they've got birth trauma. I've got women who come, they're 40 years old and they've never been able to orgasm. And they're like, what is wrong with me? Tell me, have a look and tell me if everything's normal. I have women come who have had hysterectomies and feel like they've lost their femininity. I have women who have horrendous periods or polycystic ovarian syndrome or all kinds of reproductive issues. Women who have history of sexual abuse, women who are just, 30 years old. Nobody has ever told me what's what. Can you touch everything and explain what's what, how it feels, how it works, and just explain my anatomy to me?
Yeah.
So
Wow.
it's like, yeah, I mean, they don't teach us that shit in school. Yeah, nobody
No,
shows
they
us.
give us a very
But,
clinical based version of
yeah,
it, and it's not enough. Like, it doesn't
yeah,
even scratch the surface.
totally,
And then we
totally.
sit here and wonder why, like, I have dated, been divorced, dated again, and I have a lot of women that are single, in their 30s and 40s, and who are sexually active, and pretty much it's the same story.
Yeah.
Men don't know how to please us in the bedroom, but I think the biggest cause of it is because women don't even know how to please themselves.
Exactly.
They have no idea how their body works.
Exactly.
Sex is this, it has this connotation that it starts with an erection, ends with ejaculation, and it has nothing to do with a woman or pleasuring women.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I
So
love everything.
Yeah, how can we expect men to be incredible lovers if we don't even know what we want or like or how it works? Like,
Yeah.
you've got to start with yourself. So that's a big part of what Yoni massage can be for some women. So we go through that process at the beginning, and then I invite the woman to take off her clothes and be witness as she does that, because that's a really vulnerable thing. Yeah, to stand in front of a stranger or a professional and take off your clothes and have your body seen.
Wow.
When you go to a lot of massages, they, get undressed, lay on the table, and I'll come back when you're done. Yeah, you don't have to be seen in that part. So
and you normally ripping your clothes off as quickly as possible, and then they're hiding under a towel or something.
Exactly.
Or if you're dating a guy, I know so many women who, want the lights turned down, or they'll get, dressed, and even men, will get dressed with their back turned or get undressed with their back turned to you.
Totally.
Yeah.
So that in itself is, it's a piece of it, and I encourage her just to stand there in that uncomfortableness and notice how she's wanting to put her hands over her vagina or cover her breasts, or just kind of, ooh, I don't really want to be seen here right now. It's so uncomfortable. And just feel that, because that is, a big part of all of this. So, and then once she's ready, she lays down, and it starts with a full body massage, which includes back, buttocks, legs, and just all the really sensual erogenous zone, just very gentle touch to the back of the knees or around the buttocks line, and just those really beautiful sensual areas, and just to allow her to relax, come into the space, allow us to connect, and just for her to really fully let go and be present.
That sounds amazing.
It does.
It is. And massaging the bum, that's one of the most incredible things, and a lot of masseuses don't do that because
it's my favorite. I'm always you've missed my bum. It's women hold so much tension in their body.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then when she's ready, I get her to roll over, and we do the same on the front, including the breasts and the nipples, and this is a full body massage, and we touch all of the areas, because they're all just a part of you, and they all hold a story or something in your mind. So many women have shit around their breasts. They're too big, they're too saggy, they're too small, my nipples are huge, whatever. And so touching them, bringing physical awareness to that place, allows you to feel that.
Wow.
In a safe space. And then I move in between the woman's legs and open her legs so they're kind of spread and resting over my legs.
Yeah.
And I ask her for permission to touch the external of her vulva. And in that moment, and we talked about this before, but in that moment, she needs to feel into her body for a full-bodied yes.
Yeah.
So that is where, with every single cell, you feel permission. And if there is
so beautiful.
Yeah. If there is any part of you it's oh, that feels really uncomfortable, you say no. Because that is where the work is. That is what we're there to work on. If we just push past and go, yeah, that's totally okay, that's fine, just touch me, do what you like, that's not consent.
No. And that's a really beautiful issue as well. We really need to have a big discussion, and probably another podcast about consent, Ashley, because we don't find consent. Yeah. And I was watching this fantastic TED talk the other week, and she said, let's see if I can get this right, consent is an enthusiastic and sober yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh, like, yes, sober, and yes, enthusiastic, not a hesitant yes, not a okay.
And it
But
also has to
yes.
be informed consent too.
Yeah.
There's a difference between consent and informed consent,
Yeah.
which is so
Absolutely.
gorgeous in the work that you're doing. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't hear this, but my jaw, again, is on the floor.
You need to strap your jaw.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. I have a video on my YouTube channel about what I call the three types of consent. So we've got consent, we've got informed consent, and we've got full-bodied consent. And that applies to anything in life, not just sex. Like for health professionals, when you go to the GP just to have a pap smear, like, yeah, you've made the appointment, you're there, but that doesn't mean your body is saying yes to this.
Oh, totally. And I've had experiences where I've had to have a biopsy and I didn't want it. And I felt like I had to have it. And I remember being an absolute mess on the floor of the reception in hysterical tears and not really either understanding why my body was behaving this way. And I did have a beautiful doctor that, sort of led me through the process, but it was still really traumatic. And we just push ourselves into these things because the system says we have to, or because, like you don't want to have cancer, of cervical cancer or anything like that.
Yeah.
But, like you said, consent is so different.
Yeah, and that's not what we're dealing with here. Like, and that's why I say the no is where the work is, because there's a fear there. There's a fear that we need to meet. And that's why the way that I approach Yoni Massage is so different, because we're working with the energetic level. We're working to meet fears and create permanent shift in women's life. Like, we're not just coming into a room to have a really fabulous experience. We're coming into the room to create permanent change.
Wow.
And it's like, beautiful. Okay, let's meet that fear. What is that fear that's saying no right now?
Yeah.
And we work through that then with a range of tools and practices for that woman to meet and explore that fear. And it's, again, it could be different for any woman, but it can be as powerful as just having the opportunity to say no and having it heard, respected, and honored.
Yeah.
And that in itself can be all she needed.
Yeah.
That's enormous. I mean, just the ramifications, like I can just kind of get a sense of how big that would be for some people.
Yeah, huge.
I think for most people.
Yeah, well, I can just, like, the power of that is enormous because you just don't get that anywhere, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I have had sessions that stopped there.
Yeah.
Because she really needed that on it. Like, she just needed to have the opportunity to say no and have someone go, okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
It's huge. Really, really huge. And, we live in a society where we are good girls and we're meant to just be polite, be nice, push through.
And never say no.
Exactly. Suppress the discomfort and just, you'll be right. I'm
really curious about the flip side of that. What about when people say yes?
Yeah, which happens a lot.
I bet.
Because, and again, that's kind of, it's part of the process, because the energetic part of a yoni massage is about bringing a woman into a space where she just wants to open, where she wants to literally spread her legs and feel the sexual energy in her body, because that is our power. And when a woman can feel that, she knows how powerful she is. So there's a lot of women that when we get to that point, they're just like, yes, bring it on. Like, let's do this. Don't stop. And it's really powerful. And it's, and I would say probably about 75% of women, it's a yes, especially at that point when it's just external touch. And it's, and then I just give attention to every single piece of her vulval anatomy. Like the labia, the clitoris has arms that extend down into the labia. So the labia are actually really sensitive, but they never get airtime. They never get stage time. So it's about just really giving them touch and sensation and playing with touch, light finger touch or smooth gliding touch, and lots of oil and lubrication and pubic hair. Like, I fell in love with pubic hair because of Yoni Massage. Before I did that, sorry,
Yeah.
no.
So I was just going to say, I really have this thing with, like, whenever I go to my beautician, and I love her, I found this beautician who's like, no, it's not about being beautiful, it's about self-love and self-care. And I'm like, I love you. And yeah, like, I have these conversations with her, and I'm like, I don't get why women feel they have to wax everything off. Like, it's like there's that shame. It represents that, you've got to distance yourself from being an animal or something. Or
it's sexual acceptance.
Yeah.
And, again, that comes back to porn. Like, we've been shown, and the same reason, that labiaplasty is one of the most up-and-coming common plastic surgeries in the Western world. Porn has shown us these vaginas that are perfect, hairless, and childlike.
Oh, it's creepy.
Just as Cosmopolitan magazine used to show perfect thin little bodies, we all feel like that's what we have to be and strive for. It's the same with the vaginas. And so it's like, and I used to have a hairless vagina. I used to use god-awful bloody hair-removing cream, which is like paint thinner, because that's what I thought men wanted, and I thought it made me feel sexier. So I used to do it. And then when I did Yoni Massage, and I would have these women come to me with the most incredible full bushes. And the things that you can do with pubic hair for sensation and pleasure, I was just like, oh my God. Why would you get rid of it?
That is so cool.
Mind blown.
We're going to bring back the bush. It should be a hashtag.
Totally. And and I have one now, and I never touch her. She is untrimmed, untamed, fucking, sorry, I don't know if I can swear, but I do.
No, you can. We love swearing. we usually warn people we do swear, like we do a podcast, but I didn't bother warning you.
But yeah, it's like, and you can run your hands through it and tug on the hair and fill it with oil, and just like, it's the most exquisite sensation. And if a woman hasn't experienced that before, it's just, it's so amazing, and it gives her such a beautiful pleasure and acceptance.
Yeah, but when I think about, I love my head being massaged, like the hair on my head being massaged. Yeah. And I love it being like, just even those tights, like when someone, like a lover does it, and they do, hairdressers not so much, but, when a lover does their head massage, they just pull just slightly, and it just like creates all these little tingles, and it, it stimulates all the nerves underneath. Yeah. So as you're saying this, I'm like, holy crap, like that would be amazing.
Totally.
I've never thought about that before.
Absolutely. It's just, it's a beautiful sensation. And so I try to incorporate all of that, and even just places like, running my hands and massaging the groin line, like in between the thigh, before the thigh meets the labia, and just these really beautiful sensitive areas, and just giving it all time and attention. And as you do that, as you physically bring sensation to those areas of the body, it starts to generate sexual energy. Yeah. It starts to build the like the kundalini, or the whatever you want to call it. It starts to build that. And women will often say that, and I warn women about this beforehand, is you might start to feel like tingling in your hands, almost like pins and needles. It can spread up your face, and you feel it in your face as well, and that is the energy flowing through. And that can get really quite intense, because it's starting, because this is the center of a woman. Yeah. And it's building, and so it's starting to spread and move through her body, and that is the beginning of like undulating, implosive orgasm. And orgasm is just a release of intense energy that feels really fucking good.
And I think this is the thing, like Catherine was saying to us the other week, like we don't know how to have sex anymore. Yeah. Like it's just become this very clinical, and we have a pattern to it where it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I'll go down to you go down to
Yeah.
me, and you lie on your back, I'll fuck you, and
Yeah.
then, you know, I'll kiss
Yeah.
you on the face or something and high five each other and we're done.
I wonder where we're bored a year later.
We'll do the same. How's Thursday for you? Yeah, sounds great. You know, rinse and repeat kind of thing. And we just don't know how to have sex anymore.
Yeah.
And what you're describing now, I'm like, and I talk about this stuff all the time to my poor friends, and they should be lucky. And even my work colleagues, which is even funnier because they're like, holy shit, Verity, really?
One guy at a
so
time in the workplace.
Even women, like I know so many married women, and I was a married woman who avoided sex like the plague with a husband because it was boring, because it did nothing for me, because I just felt like, it's another job, like doing the laundry, washing the dishes, taking the kids to childcare, you know, going to work. There's something to be done and be over. You know, I think we're so desensitized to our own bodies as women. We don't really understand them. We don't know them. We're not taught to. No one's taught how to masturbate, you know, and so often now, like, you know, you go buy a sex toy and you put that on and you're kind of like, whoa, over in 3 seconds because it's just like buzz the hell out of your clitoris. And you're like, well, really? Is that it?
Yeah, exactly. We've kind of lost the meaning of pleasure.
Yes.
And, you know, it seems to be it's like this pill, this instant gratification, like, and, you know, masturbation and sex have become just this thing you do before you go to sleep so that, you know, you can relax and have a good night's sleep. Or like a lot of women, they just say, oh, all right, let's do it so I can, you know, so he'll roll over and go to sleep and leave me alone. It's like we've lost the true meaning and feeling of what pleasure actually is for us.
Yeah. And I know that we've had these, you know, conversations before when we have, we were doing Dr. Ricky Jane Adams' course and on intuitive guidance. And, you know, there was these beautiful conversations that would happen about, you know, the history of even, say, like prostitution, where it wasn't prostitution. There were these priestesses that knew how to heal through this sexual energy. You know, how the churches came in and they basically destroyed these women and, you know, turned them out as prostitutes, you know, in halls, like the halls of Babylon, and just, you know, destroyed their whole identity and shut down this whole history and practice and ceremony of what real sex really is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, you know, and I love that. I love that the work that I now do has that origin. Like, you know, priestesses worked in the temples, and we brought young men and women in to be initiated into adulthood and to be initiated into pleasure. And, you know, and they would do Yoni Massage on young women and say, this is what you are worthy of. This is how you are to be touched, treated, worshipped, revered. Nothing else is acceptable.
Oh, I'm getting tingles.
Oh my goodness.
You learn how to then also give pleasure, because if you know what you are worth, you will do the same for your lover.
That is so beautiful.
And you can imagine a society where that is what you are taught as sex ed.
Yeah, and where consent and respect and honor were the themes.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I just can imagine. Can you imagine a society with, like, everybody has that level of self-worth?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, that's dangerous to what's going on now. Like, it's a complete polar opposite. That's fucking incredible.
Yeah. Like,
and that's why Amy is leading the way. Go, Amy!
Totally. Like, it's a powerful, powerful thing. And it would just... like, you just can't even begin to imagine the changes that would create for a society if that was the beginning.
Yeah.
If that was the education that we gave. Like, it's just, and so now it's, and, you know, and women who come to me, women who have Yoni Massage and do my courses, it's like they all say, I've been here before. I've done this before. I've felt this before. Like, this is a familiar space. And, you know, I am not teaching anything new. I'm not telling you anything you didn't already know. I'm providing a space for you to remember.
That is so cool.
This is our origins. This is where we come from. This is the truth of our bodies and of our sexuality.
Yeah.
I'm just holding a space for us to remember. That's it.
And I love that, because that's our sexuality is something that's very empowering and nurturing. And, you know, today I think women are faced with a sexuality where, you know, we talk about either being over-sexualized or objectified, slut shaming, you know, and it's so, like, I've got a young daughter who is 12 and she's going to turn 13 this year. And I've been thinking to myself, how do I empower her sexually instead of teaching her to hide her body, to, you know, be wary of boys, to consider, you know, all men as a threat to her sexually, instead of empowering her in her sexuality and teaching her to see it as a gift of something, you know, not to manipulate men either, but something that, you know, can heal herself and heal others, and also to be a source of her creativity, that she can tune into that sexual energy and use it as creativity. And I'm still trying to figure this out. I have not had this conversation with her yet.
I had a similar conversation with a beautiful friend in Bali recently, and she's got little girls, you know, they're from 2 years old to 5, I think. And it was the same thing. Like, how do I raise them without that
shame?
Yeah. And you know, and she was talking about her kids love to run around the house naked. And then when her husband's workmates come over, she tells them, quick, run into the room and cover up, put some undies on at least. And, you know, and so we pulled that apart and we're like, okay, so what's actually happening there? What we're teaching them is that you can run around naked and be free, but as soon as a man enters the space, you need to cover this part of your body because it's not safe.
Yeah, it's like saying you can be free, but when a man turns up, you've got to hop back into your cage.
Yeah, and that's where we learn how to express ourselves in the world. It's like the subliminal messaging we get culturally from our upbringing, from our surroundings, that lay the foundation for how we then express ourselves as sexual adults.
Yeah.
So just that early learning that my vagina is vulnerable, that it's, you know, it can be dangerous to have it exposed. Like, that's what she's learning each time mum tells her to run and put a pair of undies on. Even though we think it's something really simple, it's really starting to lay a foundation for them as women. And, you know, I'm not a mother. I don't have all the answers on how we do this. But if we can be conscious of it, and if we can be aware of what we're doing and saying, we can start to create change.
And I think this is the point. Yeah, if we keep having these conversations, maybe we'll find the answers. Yeah. Maybe women having these conversations together, you know, and like Ashley and I've got a Facebook group for this podcast. And even, you know, when these, you know, as women are listening to this podcast, if they have ideas, if they have those conversations, to bring that conversation into the Facebook group, Good Girls Don't Pod, you know, maybe we can explore these ideas together, and women can educate and inspire each other.
Absolutely.
You know, yeah, like, I mean, I love the idea of not always having the answers. And as women, we need to come together and explore and maybe find the answers together.
And that's, you know, this whole divine feminine revolution. Like, yes, we know we need to throw the patriarch, and yes, we know we need to bring equilibrium back. And it's going to be a lot of trial and error. Like, we don't know the right way to do this. And I see a lot of leaders out there, or even just like business women who are, you know, entrepreneurs and really starting to make it, if you like. And they're implementing things that are, you know, this is the way that feminine leadership needs to be. And it's like, oh, I don't know if I agree with that. It's, you know, we don't always have the answers. This is new. Like, we've got to figure this out, and it's going to be trial and error, and some things are going to work and some things aren't, but it's like we're getting there, and we've got the awareness, and we're creating change, which is the most important.
Exactly. like feminism, you know, sort of raised its head wildly in the 80s, and we got it quite wrong.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't really work for us. And we're like, okay, let's rethink this.
I mean, look, it was fantastic for bra sales.
Wasn't it? The vibrating sales.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So,
I love that idea of not being perfect, of having continuing these conversations, and that is what this podcast is based on, about opening up these conversations so that we can work together to explore the answers.
Absolutely.
This is so
when we
flipping good. Like, this is just, okay, like, I know I'm sitting here very quietly listening, but, like, you can't hear how much my ears are eating this up, like, the most delicious ear food ever.
Good.
Good. If we feel that way, hopefully other people will too. So, Amy, how does trauma get trapped in the physical body? And, you know, if we talk about the wounds that women carry in their bodies, like a lot of people think that a trauma is just a memory. But, you know, if you look into epigenetics and all sorts of things, we start to understand that trauma can get literally trapped in the body, like in our cells.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the vaginal anatomy, the pelvic anatomy is unique again compared to the rest of the body. So it's you know, we are energetic beings first before we are physical, meaning our physical bodies are a dense matter. Compared to the matter, the energetic matter, it's lighter molecules and particles. It moves at a faster pace. Things shift a lot quicker out there. But this physical body is much denser, and to us, it appears solid. So things move very slowly in this physical matter. And that's all we are. So trauma, it's shifted quickly energetically, and then it comes into our physical body, and it kind of just sits there a little bit. Like, it's still moving, but in a very fucking slow way. And often we will do our best to keep it there because we think it serves us to hold on to that trauma. And, you know, and then when you want to break their body down a little bit further, we have endocrine system, all these glands in our body which are connected to hormones, and they all have a different job, and they all release different hormones and have different functions. And the thing that's unique about our endocrine glands is when you physically massage them, they release their good stuff. So they release the hormone that gets the job done. And each endocrine gland aligns with a chakra.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah. Yeah. So our sacral chakra has a vagina and ovaries and reproductive anatomy. And when you physically massage that area, it generates stimulation in the endocrine system, in that particular endocrine gland, and it starts to process and release what it's holding.
That is so cool.
Oh my God.
That's what makes Yoni massage really fucking powerful. You get in there, you physically massage the shit. And you massage it out.
So how many do people come back? I mean, obviously this sounds like a really silly question, but I know that if I've just thought of it, other people will be thinking it too. And I can probably answer it as I'm saying it. But I guess it's that idea where people be like, oh, you know, do you only need to have like a single Yoni massage, or do people come back and repeatedly have them and they've got to sort of keep releasing layers and layers of trauma?
Yeah, it's completely independent on each woman and where she's at in her journey. Some women, one Yoni massage in a lifetime is enough. They're done. They've met what they needed to meet. They've realised what they needed to experience, and they're done. Some women have as many as they like. I know women who have one every 2 months religiously. It's like, that's my thing, and that's what I'm doing for myself. That's my method of self-care. That's where I'm putting my money. That's done. I have one probably every 12 months, maybe. just depending on, because for me, because it's a modality that I'm really familiar with and I know the power of,
Yeah.
it's become a way for me to really easily release and up level.
Wow.
So I have one probably about every 12 months. And I have some women who book in with me and they book 3 a month apart. And, you know, that's their remedy. So, yeah, it's individual and every woman does sort of what she needs to do with it.
I got a question too. There are all the questions. Like, I feel like I could pin you down in a room. Well, not pin you down, but like.
That's not very feminist, Ashley.
I know. I would very much love to be locked in a room with Amy and a recording device and just ask all the nitty-gritty questions. I'm really curious. Bit of a sexist question, but can men do this as well, or like can men be part of this modality or not, or what's the deal?
So do you mean as in to be like to give a yoni massage or to receive?
Yes. Or both.
Both. Yeah. So so the male version is called lingam massage. So lingam means penis in Sanskrit, which means wand of light. So there is the male version that they can receive. In terms of being practitioners, absolutely. There are many, 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 many men out there. And that in itself is a whole discussion of its own. Originally, when I started, I was very against men being practitioners because I feel like it's a really specific energy. It's a really vulnerable space. And for me, it was a little bit like midwifery. Like, it's secrets women's business, yeah? This is a space where women can hold women, and there's a real potency in that. But then I went and had a massage with a male practitioner who fucking blew my mind, my yoni, my everything.
And was that because you wanted to push your own boundaries and go, okay, I've got this idea about male practitioners, so I'm going to push that boundary, go and prove myself either right or wrong?
Yeah, totally. Well, I'd had one before with a male, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
It was awful. It was really disconcerting for me. It pushed boundaries I wasn't prepared or ready to push.
Yeah.
It was a really weird process. And so then I was looking for a yoni massage and I couldn't find any female practitioners where I was. And I reached out to a woman who I trusted and I said, look, I'm looking for a practitioner. Could you recommend anyone? And she said, this man. And I thought, oh, God. All right. And I felt
again.
but I felt this intuitive kind of pull towards him. And I thought, okay, I feel the permission for this. And he was just fucking incredible. Like, oh my God, every time I think about it now, it was just one of the most powerful things I've ever experienced in my life. And he just completely changed my perspective on men doing this work. And he was such a grounded, centered man, and his masculine energy was so beautiful and holding for me. It was exactly what I needed. And
oh my gosh, that sounds divine.
Oh, fuck, it was incredible.
We're just going to give Amy a moment.
Just catch your breath.
Relive her experience on air.
It was the first time that I squirted. Like, I have never squirted before, and with him I really experienced, the more he massaged me, like he spent probably an hour and a half massaging my full body before he even went near my vagina. And the whole time he did that, just this building and building and building, and I felt my legs just opening further and further and further and further, like inviting him in.
Yeah.
It was just the most powerful energetic experience. And and I squirted for the first time, and oh my God, like that was so fucking powerful, this incredible sensation that I experienced. And was so grateful to him. Like, it was a really powerful experience. It took me, like, it was really full on few days after that to really integrate and process and feel the new kind of level I had gotten to within myself. So, yeah, I think men, absolutely. There are some amazing practitioners out there. There's a lot of shit. There's a lot of seediness in the Tantra world.
Yeah, I knew a guy, and he was a friend, and he had done the training to be a practitioner, and he totally was honest, and he was very like ashamed of his behavior now that he's older, but he did this when he was younger, and he said, yeah, I kind of use it for my own advantage, like, you know, try and get women into bed. And you know, he totally aims that was absolutely immoral, and that he felt like an absolute shitbag. Like when he looks back now, he's like, oh my God, that was such shit behavior. He's like, oh, I'm horrified at my younger self. But yeah, you know, it is out there, and I think it can make it really difficult for women to navigate this whole area and know who to trust and who not.
Absolutely.
And that's why, Amy, you know, it was so, when we're talking about this, like, you were the person that we wanted to talk to, because we know your reputation, you know, and you've mentored me in the past with, you know, Dr. Ricky Jane Adams' program. And, you know, I got to hear hear the feedback from so many women that have worked with you in your business, Temple and She, and who've received from you. And there is just like absolute, like you said, reverence and honor and, you know, worship and respect for you, you know, in this industry.
Yeah.
The hands down, like, you were the person. We were like, it's Amy.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. That means a lot to me, because that's what I want to represent. Like, that's who I want to be in this industry, and that's what I want to bring to this industry. And, you know, that's why I created my own practitioner training, because this industry is not regulated. There's no standard. There's no body governing it, saying this is okay, this isn't okay, and that's not okay with me. Women are worth more. Women deserve more, and you know, that's what I want to bring. So I was like, fuck it, I'll just do it myself.
I love that attitude.
Broke the rules, Amy.
Smash 'em.
What we like.
Totally.
But this also brings up a really interesting discussion as well. Like, you know, I was talking about this to my partner, and he actually quite surprised me, because he was like, hey babe, like, if this is something you wanted to explore, you should do it, it's your body. And I've heard the opposite conversation so often, where the man turns around and says, well, I don't want you to do that, which is like, he owns her body and gets to decide what she does with it. And how does that ethically get resolved in a relationship? And then also of men saying, well, then I can go out and get a happy ending. You know, like, there's all of this fear, and this also, I think, a perspective of where men will be like, well, if it's almost like, for a lot of men, they know they can't please their partner at that level. They don't have the training, and that impacts and encroaches on what they believe to be their masculinity. They're like, oh shit, my masculinity is threatened because a woman can please my partner more than I can, or she's going to get it from another man and run off with him. How can you give us, how do we navigate these conversations?
I think that's the number one thing that stops a lot of women in relationships having a yoni massage. I hear it all the time. Oh, my partner said no. No, my partner's not comfortable with me doing that. And they feel it's cheating. Because they view her vagina as a solely sexual thing. That's it. That's all your vagina is to him. It's a piece of sexual gratification.
It's a vessel.
And if you're taking that thing, that sole purpose is sexual pleasure, to someone else, that's cheating. And that's as far as their brain can go with it. So that what that reveals about them is they don't see you or your pussy as reverent, as sacred, as powerful, as your center of creativity, as your center of all your fucking baggage and trauma and history and everything. They do not see that. That is why they're objecting. They're seeing you purely, and your vagina, as something for sexual pleasure only, for their sexual pleasure only. So it's like, okay, that's where we need to start. That's the conversation you need to be having with him here. There is more to me than your sexual gratification.
Yeah.
Wow, that's going to be such a big conversation for a lot of people to have.
Oh, yeah.
I make my partner listen to these episodes.
I'm secretly.
Sometimes I feel like I need to apologize to him, and I'm like, no, damn it, I'm a feminist. Who will listen without consent? But he does. I think he does enjoy them. He loves being able to understand the women's world a bit more. And the world from a perspective as a woman. And he's a very masculine man. And, you know, he's done played rugby at an international level, if that gives like a stereotype of that typical Aussie bloke.
Yeah.
Ashley's met him. And, you know, I love the fact that he will turn around. Well, I don't love the fact, but I don't know the fact that it's taken him this long, but understanding the way that the world works, you know, I do love the fact that he has turned around and he's like, fuck, I've never seen the world from a woman's point of view.
Yeah.
And he's like, I just didn't get it. He said, I just had my point of view as a white privileged male and I just didn't fucking get it.
Oh, white men, right?
And I love him for that. I just think,
white men.
Yeah, but, you know, we used to joke about this whole white male privilege thing, and then one day he did something, he said it in the right context, and he's like, it was my fucking white male privilege. And I was like, oh, my God, I love you.
He's using the word.
You used the right word in the right context and owned your bullshit.
Gold star.
I know. Oh, I'll keep him around. So it's the things that couples can do, because I think this has been another conversation that's come up. You know, I think when we've done like various retreats and things like that, and Yoni conversations come up, and there was one lady that just said, you know, I don't know about going outside my relationship for this.
Yeah.
Like, I'd want this inside my relationship. I'd want my partner to be the one who could help me release trauma.
Yeah.
Is there anything that they can learn together?
Oh,
What happens in that conversation?
yeah, I think that's a really beautiful intention, and it's definitely possible, but it sure as hell isn't going to happen overnight.
What?
Like I was in a relationship last year for a short while, and he loved what I did, and he was so enthusiastic about it and so supportive of it. And he said, when you think I'm ready, I want you to teach me. And I thought that showed really incredible insight that he could acknowledge there was a lot he didn't know or understand or perceive or get yet. And he recognized there was a journey in that process. And, you know, I think it's great to want your partner to do this for you, but there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle that have to be put in place first before he can, and before you can receive. Because one of the biggest things with pleasure is there's a lot of ego involved.
Yeah.
And, you know, if we're not doing the blowjob right, then we're terrible. Yeah. But it might just be, he likes it when you do this, and he hasn't told you that. Or, you know, like, it's much simpler than we make it.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to that question as well, or that issue, of if a woman doesn't know her own body, how does she help her male partner explore and understand her body?
Yeah.
Like, it's so hard to tell a male, well, I like this or I don't like that, if you actually have no idea about what you do or don't like. Or if you've only had, you know, like strawberry ice cream, how do you know that you liked, you know, the double chocolate deluxe with, you know, choc chips and cookie dough ice cream set in it as well? Like, you wouldn't even know that that existed as a flavour.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, so I think it's definitely possible, but it's both parties have to be really open to it. They have to be willing to get vulnerable, because, you know, Yoni massage is not just about pleasure.
No.
It's about release. It's about vulnerability. It's about opening yourself up in a really fucking scary way.
Yeah, and I guess having someone that's trained like you who can hold that space. So when something does rear its head, when trauma does come to the surface to be released, and you can imagine of what women go through, that could be like, I know how I felt when I was, collapsed on the waiting room floor of that clinic in hysterical tears. Like, no one knew how to hold a space for that. And the doctor that I saw was beautiful, and he did his best and he did a great job. But, I could imagine if that was someone like you who'd been trained specifically to hold that space, I would have unpacked a whole lot more and have walked out feeling a lot more whole and healed than I did that day.
Yeah.
And our partners are not equipped for that. They're not trained in that.
Also, they're just not, a lot of guys or whoever our partners are, just maybe they're not interested in ever learning that. It's just not something they're into. So, I mean, we don't go to our partners for medical advice. We don't ask them to perform brain surgery.
That's what Google's for, medical advice.
At the same time, why would you go to them maybe for this? That's a really good point, actually. I love that. And I think, there can be a different kind of yoni massage that happens between lovers. Like, it can be purely for orgasm, and it can be purely for intimacy, connection. Like, because the energy of the practitioner's presence dictates a lot of what happens in the session.
Yeah.
And, that's why there's a big difference between receiving from a man or a woman. They have very different energy. So I think the energy in receiving from a partner, again, is a different kind of yoni massage all over.
Wow. Thank you so much, Amy.
And what actually also happens on the other side, when women come out of having received this yoni massage, how do they, like, how have you seen women take ownership of their bodies or their lives? Like, what have you seen these differences? Like, have women come back and said, oh my God, like...
I've had women who have just had amazing shifts in their their ability to speak up for themselves and kind of take control of situations in their life, like even at work. Or I've had women who have finally felt the worth to end a relationship. Like, actually, I now realize that I'm worth more than what this relationship is offering me. I've had women who have really welcomed in the sexual strong energy, like almost like that wild woman energy, and just kind of changed their personality, because it's like, fuck, I don't have to be a good girl anymore. I can fucking be who I want to be.
Yeah, just a girl. Powerful girl, woman.
Totally. And I've had women who just, change the way they mother their children. I've had women who could only have clitoral orgasms and can now have penetrative orgasms, or, just all kinds of responses.
That's amazing.
Going through this process. Yeah, it's incredible.
So, hands up, who wants a yoni massage now?
Totally.
All of us do.
Only from Amy. And also, Amy, because we've followed you obviously on social media, and you've had quite a few obstacles in getting your message out there, and you're quite notorious for being banned.
Yes, indeed, I am. Yeah, Facebook doesn't like me so much because of what. This work is controversial. It's taboo, as Ashley said in the beginning. This is taboo. I'm shining a light on the dirty corner of the world, and society doesn't like that, especially Facebook. So a lot of, I'm better at negotiating their community standards now than I used to be. I used to be just a bit of a fuck you rebel, and I don't care, I'm posting it anyway, and then I'd pay the consequence. But yeah, so Facebook have banned me multiple times, up to 30 days for posting images of women in their sexual power. And, you know, these are not pornographic images. They're not like sex shots or anything like that. These are just women, often naked, just really relishing in her body and her power. And, you know, that would get me banned. And even places that I have hired to run circles or to do Yoni massage have declined me because of what I'm doing. And they don't feel comfortable advertising that kind of content.
And that's so sad, isn't it? It's like this lack of understanding of what it's actually about. And it's not like, you know, it's not like it's a sex cult as what we would understand a sex cult today.
No.
You know, it's not like you're getting a group of people together to go gangbanging. But we have these fears, we have these really crazy, I guess, institutionalized concepts that don't make
sense. Pleasure are a bad thing. Like, there is not a single word in the English language that positively describes a woman who pursues pleasure. Nothing. Doesn't exist. So a woman who goes after pleasure is a slut, she's a whore, she's a prostitute. Yeah, we are taught that a woman who enjoys pleasure is a bad thing.
Yes, I'm known at my workplace. It's not my official title, but my nickname at work is the sweet little whore. And it was said once as a comment and a joke, and I actually said, you know what, I love that. I said, call me that. I'm like, and so now it's just a running joke. And my friend at work who says it, she goes, well, you really take it like a compliment, don't you? I'm like, I do, but I feel like it's meant with love. And she goes, it actually is.
Totally.
But there isn't, you're right, there's not another word for it.
No. And so a lot of this work is about reclamation. Yeah, we're reclaiming these words. And like pussy, you know, most of our society views pussy as this, you know, weak, it's a
pathetic
you insult someone with. But it's like, actually that's just a really cool word to describe my place of power. So it's reclaiming. And this is what women do in my 12-week core program, is we really look at language and we reclaim these words that have offended us or upset us or are used against us, and really change the vibration that they hold. We look at how they make us react and we change that. We alter the way we react to these words and reclaim them. It's like,
it's like dismantling the weapons that are used against us.
Totally, yeah.
So can you tell us a bit more about this course that you have? You've got a 12-week immersion in Yoni Massage practitioner training.
Yeah. So, so the 12-week immersion it's open to anyone who has a vagina. And it's a space where we can go really deep into who you are as a sexual woman and explore that. What does that look like? How does that feel? How does she express herself or not express herself, and why? So we explore archetypes. We go into, you know, really the feminine archetypes, like the wild woman. We look at the slut. We look at, you know, these aspects of ourselves that are really loaded, and we explore them. We look at our physical bodies, our menstrual cycle. We look at who we are as cyclic beings, like for all the women who no longer bleed or have had hysterectomies, and they're still cyclic women. So we explore that. We look at language and cultural context, and, you know, words like cunt and rape and vanilla, like all these words that have so much behind them for us, and we dismantle those. And then we look at teach women the anatomy of the sexual anatomy of a woman. So we look beyond, you know, bladder and uterus, and we look at the clitoris, the G spot, the A spot, the cervix, like all of these pieces of us that have sexual capability, sexual pleasure capability. We look at the anatomy of pleasure itself, how pleasure works in our bodies, the energy behind it, that, you know, like I mentioned before, the tingling in the hands, what is that? Why does that happen? How does that happen? And we look at controlling your pleasure rather than being controlled by your pleasure. So, you know, this idea of the horniness and, you know, libido and when you're horny and why you're horny, and actually being the director of that rather than at its mercy.
That's really powerful, and that would probably be
Yeah.
something really powerful for men to learn as well.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of
totally.
running away with it, that they can harness it. Keep going there, Amy. Tell us more. Tell us more.
Absolutely. So it's really just about women stepping into control of, you know, a healthy control of who they are as a sexual woman and how they want to safely express that in the world, and taking the shame away from that. And it's really powerful. And I've had women who have done the course and completely changed their direction, their business, their relationships, everything out of it. Because it, you know, sex and money are two of the biggest taboo things in our society, and the two are very closely interlinked. So if you've got issues around your sex and your sexual expression, that translates to your relationship with money. So addressing this can really make big changes in your life. And, you know, I've done a lot in the world of spirituality, and I got really sick and tired of the spiritual wankery.
Yes.
All of these women who are guides and goddesses and have their crystals and their sage and all these incredible, wonderful things. And you say the word vagina and they go, oh my God. It's like, yeah, you know, that's just fear. And, you know, you can't really be fearless and fully connected with the divine unless you address all aspects of yourself, sexuality included. So it was a real push for me to bring this to all these spiritual women who are like, oh, I've got it all together and I'm so fearless and free. And I'm like, yeah, but do you have good sex? Do you orgasm the way that you want to, you know?
Yeah.
And so that sort of really helped me to bring that to the world. And then, yeah, the practitioner training, as I said, I created it because there's a demand, there's a need. And I want women to have access to fucking incredible practitioners. And I want women to be able to hold space for other women in a really sacred way that we used to thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
And, you know,
yeah,
so
definitely.
this modality, I'm getting it registered with the International Insurance, I can't think of the name right now, IICT, so that my practitioners are covered. And so that the women going to the practitioners can feel like they are safe and secure and going to a good practitioner.
Wow.
So,
And these are two different courses, the 12-week
Yes.
immersion, and then there's the Yoni
the
Massage
practitioner training. Yeah.
And where does that take place? Like, surely, I mean, assuming that's, you know, the 12-week immersion, I'm assuming is an online.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. It's online. So I have women from all over the world take part in the 12-week immersion. It's all done via Zoom so that they can participate from home, from bed. And then the practitioner training is a 6-month course, and all the modules content is online, but then we come together for 8 days in Bali to do the practical hands-on component. So the women do Yoni massage on each other, they give and receive together, and we really go deep into this space of safe sexual exploration. And the retreat is my favorite part because it's where we get to do the forbidden. It's where we get to come together and just get naked for a week and do all the most fucking outrageous
And break the good girls.
Exactly. It's like a really potent, fun space, and it's awesome.
It would. And I can imagine, like, I can even feel in my own body that kind of sense of that feeling of going into something that society would deem as dangerous. Like, God forbid that women become powerful creatures with their own minds.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, you know, it's such a beautiful, beautiful and, you know, intoxicatingly powerful, you know, thing that you're creating. It's so needed in this world.
It is. It's very, very needed. And the more that I'm doing it, the more I'm realizing that. And, you know, the further my reach gets, the more women reach out to me. Like, I get messages all the time on Instagram and Facebook of women saying, I love what you do. It terrifies the shit out of me. And I'm not ready to work with you, but I just love reading your posts or watching your videos, and I just want you to know that. And it's so nice to hear that, because sometimes you feel like you're talking to a wall.
Yeah.
But to know that there are women out there just silently watching and it's having
Oh,
a very gentle, slow impact is incredible. Absolutely
definitely.
incredible.
And I think they also, I mean, I know I'm one of those women. Like, this stuff does terrify me, but it's because I know that that's where, you know, my next layer of, you know, unearthing is coming from,
Yeah.
and it needs
Yeah.
to get stepped into. But, you know, I've watched you like over the years, and I've seen your, you know, the photos that you've put up, even of yourself.
Yeah.
And it's just like, holy shit, like you're such a fucking goddess in every single time of the word. And I love how you own your body, and there's this sense of, it's like, even like the photo that we're using to highlight this show, like Ashley and I are like, how does she just look so damn fierce? Like, we were talking about it this morning, just going like, God, she fucking rocks. Like, you are a powerful woman.
Yeah.
And a sensual woman and a beautiful woman, and you can't really, it's so hard not to look at you because it's just, you just radiate.
Yeah.
I guess everything, you know, we were saying if, you know, Mother Earth and the goddess Venus, you know, combine those together,
All in
I
one.
think we would start to get close to describe you.
Yeah, and I think that's because I walk my talk.
You do walk your talk. It is exactly because
Yeah. you
walk your talk.
Yeah,
And that
it's
is
so
so,
important.
yeah. And there will be so many women watching you stalkerishly from the sidelines.
Yeah.
And that's why it was so important to talk to you. I think to challenge ourselves, but also because we know how important your message is, and we want to bring it back down to ground level, and not just keep it up there in the spiritual conversations and, you know, the highly spiritual groups, but to bring it to the mainstream people, to bring these conversations to the streets where it's needed.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what I love about the women who are saying yes to my practitioner training is they are your everyday woman. Like I have, you know, the 50-year-old mum. I have the woman from a rural property in, you know, rural Victoria. Like I just have women who represent every single one of us. And I love that because I want this to be so accessible and so normal that everyone can access it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, totally love that.
And then how can people find out more about your 12-week immersion program and the Yoni Massage practitioner training? Are they on your website or? So
they are. All of the courses I run, the workshops, everything are all on my website, which is templeofshe.com.au. The 12-week immersion, the registrations are open for the next one, which begins on the 13th of August. And the practitioner training only has, I think, 2 spaces left, and that begins on the 2nd of September.
Wow.
Yeah, which is very exciting. So there's all sorts of goodies and meditations and things on my website, so you can go and get lost on there for hours. And yeah, all the details of how you can work with me are on there.
Beautiful. And you were saying, sorry, the 12-week immersion program, the registrations are open at the moment and they close on the 13th?
The course starts on the 13th and the registrations close the day before.
Okay, so it closes on the 12th. Awesome. We'll put all of this into the show notes so that people can access and hopefully fill those spaces up. And yeah, so the website is www.templeofshe.com.au, and you're on Instagram as well, aren't you?
Yes, yeah, I'm on Instagram as Temple of She and Facebook as Temple of She as well. I put a lot of my more kind of juicy, raw material on Instagram just because their standards are a bit looser. So if you really want the good stuff, follow me on Instagram.
I'm like, right, have I got Amy on Instagram? I'm like, damn it, I need to get onto that. I've literally got my phone in my hand. I'm like, no, put your phone down. Focus, get off Instagram.
The good stuff's on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, we will definitely be stalking you, won't we, Ashley?
Cool.
Great. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us. It's just been such an insane and beautiful conversation, and I think a really powerful one as well. of just even letting women understand that they're more than just a sexual object for men's pleasure, but to open up this whole other side, that there's, you know, there's so much more that's happening within our bodies, and so much more that we can embrace, and healing, you know, ourselves and, you know, each other. Like, it's just, it's absolutely beautiful, and it's powerful, and it's definitely a message that we want to get out there.
Yeah, and thank you for having me, because absolutely, I want every woman to even just have a moment to think about this. And if they listen to this podcast and that creates that moment for them, then, you know, my job's done. It's like, just, you know, really taking the time and where am I scared? Where am I terrified to open up sexually? What is it that's holding me back? Like, why am I too scared to wear that short skirt or that top that shows cleavage? Or just, why is it that I feel that way? And especially when we judge other women, because we all do it.
Yes.
We all do it. So if you can just start to become aware of when you're doing that and catch yourself in those moments, we start to create a change.
Yeah, and this is something Ashley and I are both really big on, is the fact that we're not just creating this podcast for people to listen to and then tune out once it's done, but of, you know, jumping into the Facebook group and having the conversations, asking the questions as well. You know, and we'll head on Amy to kind of answer any tricky ones that we can't answer. But also, you know, like, this stuff requires action. So like Amy was saying, whether the action is, you know, inside your own head, but it's still action of questioning ourselves, questioning our motives and our intentions around our own sexuality, or whether it's going home and having this conversation with your partner and saying, hey, I heard this, like, you know, if you want to call it a batshit crazy podcast, go for it. We're not offended. You know, just have the conversation, whatever it takes. You know, and I just want to discuss this, like, what are your thoughts? And, you know, have the conversations with your partners, you know, have conversations with girlfriends that might not have been open to this before, and get out a bottle of wine and have a good giggle. You know, like, start just opening up those conversations. And Ashley and I always say, it's really beautiful that like-minded women speak to like-minded women, but fucking change does not happen there. It happens when we take the conversation to somewhere where it's uncomfortable. That is where change happens. That is the real juiciness of a conversation. You know, take action. Jump on Amy's Instagram, because she often gets banned on Facebook apparently. So jump on Instagram and support Amy. You know, the more that people even take those simple actions of, you know, of following Amy on Instagram, following her on Facebook, the more that these, you know, social media tycoons are going to understand that this is something that is wanted and desired and has masses of support for. And, you know, if we don't have the courage, you know, to do this work, then just fucking support the women that do have that courage. Support these fierce women like Amy and like Catherine and, you know, many other women we've spoken to do their work, so they can, you know, support them to have the stage and celebrate these women. You know, we need action in this world, and this podcast isn't created for people just to listen to. It's created to stir action. So head over to Facebook, head over to Instagram, stalk Amy. She absolutely loves it. You know, have a look at her programs, have the conversations, you know, where it's needed, even if that's just in your own head. But take action.
Yeah, amazing. Totally. Thank you, Verity. Couldn't have said it better.
I started ranting this morning on the phone to my partner, and he's like, you've got an interview coming up, don't you, this morning? Like, the fire's in my belly. Thank you so much, Amy. And we would love to get this podcast or this episode out soon as well, so we can help you to fill up those spaces and to educate and inspire more women.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you, gorgeous women. It's been an honor.
Hey, if you want to continue this conversation, head over to our Facebook page and be part of the revolution. You can find us at Good Girls Don't Podcast on Facebook. Please note, we cannot create change alone. Your support, likes, comments, shares, and iTunes reviews help us to give a voice to the insanely inspirational women and the controversial issues that we discuss.
If you'd like to be a part of our podcast, or if you have an issue that you have a burning desire for us to bring into the light, please contact us. With fierceness, Ashley
and Verity.